Close the doors of your mind. Close the gates of your mind. Close the gates of your palace, your ba'ith, your ahal, your ohel, your tent, your mishkan, your mikdash, your hayikal, your sentient self, your sentient body that you dwell inside. And bring your body to center. Bring your thoughts to center. Bring your heart and your mind to center. Bring your makashbar, your yetzer to center. For today is a day of freedom. Today is a day that Yahuwah has given to us at the end of the shabath, that we may cease from our labors and our own selfish self and our own selfish ambitions, that we may ride upon the high places, upon the wings of the wind, that he may feed us with our akla, a call. For Shaitan walks around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour, to hinder every single progress and every single elevation within one's life, to hinder your heart and your mind and bring doubt in your heart and your mind for the things that you have within oneself. So today we acknowledge the one who made out the heart of the earth, all the rivers and streams, all the nahar of the earth, in the highest shamayim, even the rivers and streams on the surface of the earth and under the earth, the one who created all things and gives life and understanding to our inner man and our inner being. We no longer walk after our own ways and our own thoughts, nor after the words of Satan and Shaitan, but you may walk according to the righteousness of Sadiq, nor after the ways of his army, his demons that try to alter the course of your life. So as we move forward in the fear, I say Yarei Yahuwah, the fear of Yahuwah. Right, so this is the book of Romans chapter 10 and verse 1. 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 Romans 10 and 1. Romans 10 and 1, it says, brothers and sisters, my heart's desire and prayer, or palau, so that means you have to be in alignment. In order, in the morning, a bakar and a sacrifices, it won't even understand this. My heart's desire and prayer to Elohim for them is that they may be saved. So is that your prayer? Or are you selfish? Are you a selfish individual? Or are you a selfish, ambitious individual person? For if you're that type of person, then that's not your heart. Right? That's not your heart. If you want people to fall, you want people to not make it, that's not your heart. Right? This is Jeremiah 3:15. Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 15. Jeremiah chapter 3 and verse 15. Jeremiah chapter 3 and verse 15. It says, and I will give you shepherds, or Radah, after my own heart. Right? These are all a part of what? Yahushua Mashiach coming to redeem us from the false shepherds. Right? Going to verse 1 of Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 1. Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 1. Going back to 3:15. And he says, I will give you shepherds after my own heart who will feed you with binah or da'ath and binah. Right? He'll give you knowledge and understanding. Why? And when you have multiplied and been fruitful in the land, so if the person doesn't have a heart like Shaul, or even saying my heart's desire that they may be saved, if you don't got that, they're not going to feed you with the right da'ath and binah. And then you're not going to be fruitful and multiply in the land in those days, declares Yahuwah Elohim. Right? You won't do it. You won't be fruitful and multiply in your consciousness. It won't happen. It doesn't work like that. Jeremiah 3:16. And when you have multiplied and be fruitful in the land in those days, declares Yahuwah, they shall no more say the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah. We say, why are they not going to say it? Because the Malkut comes not with observation anymore. It's within you. Before they used to have rise up Kohanim of the doing and lift up the ark. Aaron, Nasa Aaron. They used to say that. They used to do that. You used to be able to see it too, with your natural sight. Rise up. We need to carry the ark in order to move, right? But not no more. Because the ark is in you. The Aaron is in you. And guess what? The ark of Yahuwah, it shall not come to mind or be remembered or missed. It shall not be made again. So why would they put that in here? Because why would he put that in there? The way they word it in English, they try to make it look like it's irrelevant. Like you don't need to know it. Like you don't need to dwell in the inner courts of yourself, where the mercy seat is. It make it look like you don't even need to remember it or zakar it. Why? Because Satan, when he wants to bewitch you, all he got to do is put it in the knowledge that you used to know. And when he bewitch you, then guess what? Then now you don't know it anymore. We don't need to learn that. We don't need to worry about that. Why? Because How you going to get up from the grave? At that time, Jerusalem shall be called the throne of Yahuwah. Why would you? And it says, and guess what? And all nations shall gather to it. And guess what? To the presence of Yahuwah in Jerusalem. And they shall not be follow stubbornly after their own evil heart. He said, then you won't do it anymore. Right, going back to Romans chapter 10 and verse 1. Romans chapter 10 and verse 1. Romans 10 and 1. Brothers and sisters, my heart's desire and prayer to Elohim for them is that they might be saved. For I bear them witness that they have a zeal and enthusiasm for Elohim. They have an enthusiasm, they have knowledge. They know all the Abri Lashon. They have all the dress and the coats and the bells and the whistles and everything that you can see. Matter of fact, they have a zeal. And it's matter of fact, but it's not according to what? Da'ath. For being ignorant of the righteousness of Elohim. So they were ignorant, which means they didn't know it. For many years, they didn't know it. They were ignorant of Elohim's righteousness and seeking to establish their own, which means they didn't know it before. They were ignorant, and then they want to establish their own based upon the knowledge, that they had. And they did not submit to Elohim's righteousness, Yahuwah. Why? Because they hostile. They can't do it. Anything Yahuwah tells them to do, that's male and female. It's a Qahalath about. Anytime you see somebody who can't obey, or walk in subordination or obedience or Radah, and somebody having dominion over them, they can't do it, then they have their own righteousness. For Mashiach is the end of the Torah, the law. For righteousness, everyone who believes, he's the end of it. Why? Because everything happens for a reason. This is the book of Tahalim, Psalms 49, Psalms, Tahalim, 49 and 1. Psalms, Tahalim, 49 and 1. Tahalim, Psalms, 49 and 1. Psalms, Tahalim, 49 and 1. It says, hear this, all peoples. Give ear, all inhabitants of Tabel, the world, both low and high, rich and poor. So it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. Together, all of you. My mouth shall speak Hakmah, right? Wisdom, Hakmah. You know, it ain't like somebody pouring oil on their face and making their face to shine. Because Hakmah make a man's face to shine. No, it's Bina Hakmah Da'ah. My mouth shall pour out Hakmah, and the Haggah, the meditation of my heart, shall be of Da'ath. So if you don't have that Da'ath on the inside of you, that Binah, that Da'ath, and that Hakmah on the inside of you, how are you going to understand what it's like to be after Yahuwah's own heart? I will incline my ear to a mashni, and I will solve the riddle to the music of the lyre. Why? Because these are all people who were able to do these things and be able to do it as it flowed, just like if somebody plays an instrument, they're able to flow. Verse 5. Why should I fear in times of trouble? And look at all these things that's happening. Economy collapsing. I say on the brink of. Food prices going up. Adversity. Everything is frozen. Mostly you can't even move around. So much uncertainty. I shall not fear in times of trouble. Earthquakes, famines, pestilence, pole ship. All types of things, wars, rumors of wars. I shall not fear in times of trouble. When the iniquity of those who cheat me surround me, so when everybody's surrounding you, you think everybody doesn't practice unjust gain? I assure you, everybody practices unjust gain. He says, so how you know? You've been a victim of unjust gain. People have always found a way to swindle you to buy a house, swindle you to buy some land, swindle you to give them money for a donation, swindle you to charge you $150 for 150 currency for a shirt or a t-shirt. You've been swindled your whole life. They surround you everywhere. You are surrounded. And your wallet is the actual target. You are surrounded. Now they being at the people that got swindled, ran out of money, now they want to rob you. And they're going to, thou shalt not steal. They want to keep adding sin on top of sin. Now they want to swindle you now. 'Cause you got the knowledge. Now they want to keep adding sin on top of sin. Now they want to keep adding sin on top of sin. Now they want to keep adding sin on top of sin. Now they want to swindle you now. 'Cause you got the knowledge. Now they want to keep adding sin on top of sin. Now they want to swindle you now. 'Cause you got the knowledge. Now they want to keep adding sin on top of sin. Now they want to swindle you now. 'Cause you got the knowledge. Now they want to keep adding sin on top of sin. Now they want to swindle you now. 'Cause you got the knowledge. Now they want to keep adding sin on top of sin. Now they want to swindle you now. 'Cause you got the knowledge. Now they want to keep adding sin on top of sin. Now they want to swindle you now. 'Cause you got the knowledge. Now they want to keep adding sin on top of sin. Now they want to swindle you now. 'Cause you got the knowledge. Now they want to keep adding sin on top of sin. Now they want to swindle you now. These are all a part of it. And you add sin on top of sin on top of sin, and then eventually it's going to reach the Shamayim. But these are all a part of it. Why should I fear? Why should I fear in times of trouble? When the iniquity of those who cheat me surround me. Those who trust in their wealth and boast in the abundance of their riches. That's all they do. They swindle you, extortion, unjust gain, and then guess what they do? Then they boast in your face about how much they swindled and extortioned you in all the things that they do. That's what they do. You're able to get your whole lineage blocked off from being audited by taxes. That's what happens. When you're surrounded with your abundance of riches, they boast in it. And you know what you do? You know, people do, they worship them. They worship people. Truly, no man can ransom another or give to Elohim the price of his life. So it doesn't matter how much money you got, or bina hamada'ath you got. For the ransom of their life is costly and can never suffice. It doesn't matter how much you will never be satisfied with it. That he should live forever and never see the pit. Right? Skipping over to verse 18. Verse 18. Though he lives and he counts himself Barak, and though you get praise when you do well for yourself, his soul shall go to the generations of his fathers eventually, who will never see light. Or man in his pomp, yet without understanding. Yet without understanding. So that we just read, my heart's desire and prayer for Yahshua, that they might be saved, but I bear them record they have a zeal of knowledge, but not according to knowledge. But they don't have no understanding. We know how with the man in his pomp is without understanding. So if you were without understanding and you was going to establish your own righteousness, which means you had all your riches and everything, and then you didn't have a certain type of understanding. And now, many years later, now, being that you did not die, now you still want to boast of how great you are. Now think about your life. If you had ended at that time. Think about it. Man in his pomp, yet without understanding, is like a beast that perishes. He said he's just like a beast. Just like somebody shooting an arrow at a buffalo and killing them. Or killing 2 million buffaloes to control an indigenous people so they can't even eat no food, so you can indoctrinate them with a whole new way of life. It's just like a person shooting a bow and you're like a beast that died. He said in your pomp, right? This is the book of Yeshayahu. This is the last. Let me go into this one. This is the book of Yeshayahu, Isaiah chapter 13 and verse 1. Isaiah chapter 13 and verse 13. Isaiah chapter 13 and verse 9. Yeshayahu 13 and 9. Behold, the days of Yahuwah comes cruel with wrath and fierce anger, to make the land a desolation, and to destroy its sinners from it. So anybody who commits kata'ah. For the stars, the kukab of Shamayim, and their constellations will not give their light. Why? Because the moon, if the moon ain't got no light, ain't no way the stars gonna have light. If the sun be darkened, ain't no way the kukab gonna have light. Because if the sun be darkened, then the moon ain't got no light, and then the stars ain't got no light. The sun will be dark at its rising. It ain't gonna be a dark sun when it rises. And the yard will not shed its light. And guess what? Then the yard ain't gonna have no light. The father ain't gonna have no light, then the mother ain't got no light, and the children ain't got no light. That's what you see today. And then you see the children ain't got no oil. Now they want to steal. Thou shalt not steal. They stealing. You know why? Because people ain't got no bina hamada'ah on the inside of them. And I will punish the world for its evil. Yahuwah said, I'm going to punish every single person in the inhabited world, both low and high, rich and poor, for your evil. It doesn't matter who you are. And the wicked for their iniquity. And the wicked for their iniquity. And I will put an end to the pomp of the arrogant, right? Your part. You say you arrogant. He said you like a beast that perishes. And lay low the pompous pride of the ruthless. And you said, I'm just using English words. How you say? and the pompous pride of the ruthless. Your brilliant display of who you think you are. I will make people more rare than fine gold. He said, I'm going to make a people more rare than fine gold. And mankind than a gold over. Ain't gonna be nobody left. You're gonna be, you know how you find a piece of gold and you dig it and you finally found it? He's like, man, a human being is on the earth right now. That's how few he's gonna make it if people don't stop. And guess what? Therefore, I will make the Shamaim tremble, and the earth will be shaken out of its place. That's how Yahuwah can do it. All he got to do is move the earth. This whole planet, this whole spaceship that's on pillars, that he got it laid up and sitting right there under his footstool, all he got to do is move the whole earth out of its place, and guess what? It will be nobody left on earth. And you know, all that money, all the things that people you got stored up, and everything that you thought you were going to attain, it's not going to be here anymore. And then guess what? All that life you was going to live, that nice house you got is now split in two because of an earthquake. And now you're back to square one, if you survive it. This is why they have a zeal, but not according to the you being ignorant, not even understanding what Yahuwah is looking at you for. Therefore, I will make the Shamaim tremble, and the earth will be shaken out of its place at the wrath of Yahuwah of hosts in the day of his fierce anger. And guess what? And like a hunted gazelle or like a sheep with none to gather them, each will turn to his own people, and each will flee to his own land. Right? So why is this important? Right? This is the book of Yeshayahu. Isaiah chapter 5, I think it is. Isaiah chapter 5 and Isaiah chapter 5. Isaiah chapter 5 verse 14. Yeshayahu chapter 5 verse 14. Yeshayahu chapter 5 verse 14. Actually, Yeshayahu chapter 5 verse 13. Yeshayahu chapter 5 verse 13. Therefore my people go into exile for lack of knowledge. Why? They being ignorant of Yahuwah's righteousness and established in their own righteousness, and have not submitted themselves to the righteousness of Yahuwah and the pattern of Yahushua Mashiach for 40 days. And the second Pasar. And the understanding of keeping it 7 days more and 7 days more up until the 49 days to the 50th day. Therefore, my people going to exile for lack of knowledge, because everybody seeking after, he said, you can't serve Yahuwah and money. Because he can shake the earth right now. Move it out of its place, and all your brilliant display and everything you got stored up will be gone in an instant. You will have to uproot and leave. That's how fast he can do it. Their honored men go hungry, and their multitudes are parched with thirst. That's why Yahushua was crying out in totality, and he said, I thirst. And he was hungry too, because he didn't eat the whole time. He said he didn't even eat no food on Passah. He was serving other people. He didn't even get a chance to eat no food. So who was the greatest? And then, therefore, Sheol has enlarged his appetite. So therefore, being that Yahushua did that, he ain't no food. He didn't even drink nothing. And then he was thirsty, and you gave him sour wine. You know what he said? Therefore, Sheol has enlarged his appetite. That's why he went into the grave 3 days and 3 nights. For you. But guess what? Therefore, Sheol has enlarged itself and opened its mouth beyond measure. Why? Because you have no knowledge. And opened his mouth beyond measure, and nobility of Jerusalem and her multitude will go down, her revelers and all who exult in her. Because of all that. Right, so this is the seventh day of the third month. The 7th day of the third month. Why? Because everything that happens for a reason, right? So you look at the third month, look at the Daleth, which is door, entrance way. Exactly, we talk about an entrance way has been ministered unto you abundantly. Just like we look at this third month, but you got to look at the third month as a portal. Look at it as the child being born through the matrix, getting ready to be born. And then when that child is getting ready to be born, you have to look at it as an entrance way, a doorway. And that doorway is opened, so what? Something can be born. But we look at all this, he say the 7th Yom, this 7th day of the third month, right? So we're 51 days since the 16th day or the 17th day of Aydah on the first Chag Matzah, Feast of Unleavened Bread, on the first day of the 17th day of the first month. when Yahusha rose on the third day of Qahalath. That was the 17th day of Qahalath in the first month. That was 51 days ago. Then you got 50 days since Yahusha appeared in the house with his disciples and revealed himself on the 4th day of Qahalath, which was the 18th day of the first month, in the first Qahalath. That was 50 days ago. So how are you doing? Now we're 42 days since Bakur waving the sheaf, the Omer, on the 49-day count toward the 50th day. There is 7 days left until the 49th day at evening. Right? There's only 7 days left. But you got this day and you got another 7 days. That's the 7th Shabbat. So this is the 6th Shabbat going towards the 7th Shabbat. And then after the 7th Shabbat, immediately when the sun goes down, it's Chag Shavuot, Feast of Weeks, what they call Pentecost. All this is a part of the transitions of time. Why? Now we're 2 days since Yahusha was taken on a cloud, the Ab, after 40 days appearing with many proofs, which left 9 days left in the 49-day count toward the 50th day of Chag Shavuot. Why? Because 2 days ago, on the 5th day of the 3rd month, Yahushua Mashiach left on the cloud. And it's exactly 9 days left before the 50th day. It's exactly 9 days after that day happened. That was 2 days ago. You say, how come I don't know about it? Because you ain't here. And you say, when you're not around, then you're not going to understand why. It's really that simple. Because everything ain't for public consumption. Because everybody thinks that everything is for public consumption, but it's not. That's only to get some donations and some money. But Yahushua says, you freely receive, you freely give. Right? But that's only to get donations. I ain't trying to get no donations, right? So this is so from the 17th day of the first month of Qahalath, when Yahushua rose from the grave, to the 5th day of the 3rd month, when he rose, 5th day of the 3rd month, when he was taken from the cloud, he says on the Ab, it was exactly 40 days since waving the sheaf, and 49 days since he was risen from the grave. Exactly 49 days from the 17th day of the first month before he was taken up in a cloud. Exactly 49 days from when he was risen from the grave. That's when he was taken in the cloud. You can't make this up. And exactly 40 days when he was taken, right? He was here for 40 days after waving the sheep. 40 days. And that's how precise it is. That's why you say, David, I always say 7 times a day I give praise to Yahuwah. 7 times a day. Why? Because equals to 49. It's a truth. Right, so this is 1 Chronicles 28 and 9. 1 Chronicles, Dabari Hayamim 28 and 9. And you, Shalom, my son, know that the Elohim of your father and serve him with a whole mind, or your whole mind, or your whole lave, your whole law. And with a willing nefesh, or mind. It says with a willing soul for that word for mind. With a willing soul. For Yahuwah searches all hearts and understands every plan and thought. So he's searching all your heart and knows every plan and your thought. This is Hebrews chapter 4, Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 2. Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 2. It says, for the good news came to us just as to them. But Mashiach, but the message they heard did not benefit them because they were not united by Amunah. Why? With those who listen. He said, if you're listening, you're not united with one Amunah. Why? For we who have believed enter that rest, as he said, as I swore in my wrath, they shall not enter my rest. Why? Why are they not going to enter? Because they had no Amunah with those who would believe, just like Caleb and Yahushua. Everybody else didn't believe. Only Caleb and Yahushua did. So therefore, everybody else don't get in because they ain't united as one in their amunah to take the land, to take the giants down, to take the people who taller than them down. So being that everybody was afraid and they caused fear in other people, then it caused what? You know what people want to do? They want to blame you for their own negligence. No, that's your negligence. And these are all a part of it. You say, so why is this important? Because everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. Because he's searching out all our plans, and then people say, my plan is going to work. I assure you, it's not. Right, so there's the book of Hebrews. Sorry. Yeah, the book of Hebrews. I think it's the same. Yeah. The book of Abri Lashon, or Abri. The same verse, same chapter, verse 12. Same chapter, verse 12, 4 and 12. Actually, Hebrews 4 and 12. For the word of Elohim is living and active, right? So it's alive. Just like it created all things, it created all the plants and everything you see. It's living and active. It's gonna activate. Sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing the division of soul, nefesh, and ruach. That's why we just read it here in Dabri HaYamim 28:9. He says, with a willing nefesh, soul, not mind. It's separating you. Why? Because it serves as a mechanism so you can do it with your whole body, your whole mind. Sharper than a two-edged sword, piercing the division of nefesh and ruach, of the joints and marrow. Why? Because everybody has a joint and you have marrow. The same way, that's where toxins hide out at. Toxins hide in your joints and your marrow. They hide in your bones and your DNA code. He said, how do you know it hide in your DNA code? So when you fornicate and you bear children out of wedlock, that actual being, that actual toxins are in your DNA code. It's inside of your joints and your marrow. When you do it while you're a teacher, it's just even more prevalent. It's even more toxic. Why? Because it affects other people. Then when you look at it on the level of another level, when you actually have it still in your mind and your thought process and your makashaba and your yetzer, and it's still there, and you still got the fornication and the adultery still in there, then it becomes a danger to other people if you bring it out of your treasure chest, inside of your body. Sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing the division of nefesh and ruach, of the joints and the marrow, and discerning the thoughts and the intentions of the heart. Delay, because you can't do it with your whole body, your whole mind. I'm already looking at it. And no creature is hidden from his sight. He said, no creature, you're like a beast that perish. You're not hidden. But all are naked, so you're naked. Just like Adam was naked when he was born, when he was made from the Adamah. And he ain't know he was naked. But then when he found out he was naked, he said, now you naked. And exposed to the eyes of him whom you must give an account. Why? Because you're going to give an account. This is book of Bereshit, Genesis chapter 2 and verse 1. Actually, 2 and 22. 2 and 22. Bereshit 2 and 22. And the Selah that Yahuwah Elohim had taken from Adam, he made into an Isha and brought her to Adam. And the man said, at last, this is Esheb, the bone of my bone, flesh of myself, flesh of my flesh, she shall be called Isha, because she was taken out of a man. Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and hold to his Isha, and they shall be one flesh. And the man and his wife were both naked and were not ashamed. Why? Because Yahuwah looking at you. Everything's naked and exposed to him. They're naked. Yahuwah says you're naked and exposed, but you ain't got no sin. They have no sin. They don't have no sin because they are naked. But when this happened, how did Yahuwah know they were naked? Right, this is Bereshit, Genesis chapter 3. Genesis chapter 3 and verse 7. Genesis chapter 3 and verse 7. Bereshit chapter 3 verse 7. Then the eyes of both were open, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loincloths. That's how he knew you were naked. He said, all things are naked and exposed to me. Why you ain't naked no more? Oh, you must can see now. Somebody told you something you weren't supposed to know. So now you're trying to cover up something, or cover something, or cover up something that you did. So now you're trying to cover it up. That's what we do. We cover up our sin when we get exposed. Because you should be naked. But being that you covered up your sin, that's how you know you're a sinner. That's how you know everybody on earth commits sin, because nobody walking around naked. Are you exposed and naked right now? No, you got clothes on. Why? Because you realize you were naked. Your eyes became open, and you know that you still naked and exposed in front of Yahuwah, though. Regardless, right? This Bereshit chapter 3, Genesis, actually going to Revelations. Go to Revelations chapter 2 and verse 1. Revelations chapter 2 and verse 1. Hazun chapter 2 and verse 1. Revelation chapter 2 verse 1. To the Malachi of Ephesus write, the words of him who holds the 7 stars in his right hand, he said in his yard, the 7 celestial circles in his right hand, who walks among the 7 golden lampstands, among the 7 menorahs. I know your works and your toil and your patience, and how you cannot bear those who are evil, but have tested those who call themselves Shaly'shy and are not, and found them to be false. Why? I know you are enduring patiently and bearing up my name's sake, and you have not grown weary. He said you ain't grown weary either. But I have this against you, that you abandoned the love you had at first. He said, I have this against you. He said, I don't care if you've been doing it for 5 years, 7 years, 15 years, 20 years. I have this against you. You abandoned the love you had at first. Ahava. Remember therefore where you have fallen, and repent and do the works you did at first, or I will come and remove your lampstand. Which means I'm going to take the memory of the menorah and the 7 near and the 7 celestial circles from your mind. And you will transgress inside of the 7 celestial circles and the 7 near. And I will give you up to the behaviors of that causes death to you. And I will let you do it. And I will come to you and remove your lampstand from its place unless you repent. Yet this you hate the works of the Nicolaitans, right? But why is this all important? Why is this all important? Going to Revelation chapter 1. Revelation chapter 3. Revelation chapter 3 and verse 18. Revelation chapter 3 and verse 18. Actually, going to Revelation chapter 3 and verse 17. For you say, I am rich, and I have prospered. That's what people say. Man, my thing went up. My chart went up. My 401k went up. My cryptocurrency went up. My wallet is now big now. And now look at me. I prospered. And it was outside of the knowledge of somebody else. And it makes me feel better about myself because it was my own secret thing that I did. For you say, I am rich, and I have prospered, and need nothing. He said, I don't need nothing from no man. I don't need nothing from no other person. I don't need nothing from nobody. Not realizing you are wretched, pitiable, poor, blind, and naked. He said, you all that, all in one package. He said, you all in one package. Even though you got an OnlyFans account, you make $500,000, $200,000 a month, you still poor, you blind, and you naked. Even though you naked and exposed on it. Even though you are causing other women to desire to do that because of the finances that you collect. And you causing other women to fall in their mind. I should be able to do this. I should do that. I might as well do that too. And that's what happens when you start becoming a leader and a mother of all harlots. Verse 18, I counsel you to buy from me gold refined by fire. I counsel you to buy gold refined by fire so that you may be rich. You need to be refined by fire. Why? So that you may be rich and wear white garments, so you can put some clothes on and put on white garments. So that you may be clothed yourself and the shame of your nakedness may not be seen. Why? Because when Adam and Qahalath put on loincloths, he said, you know what? I got to put a white garment on you now because you think that you actually are clothed. But before, you thought you were because you had a zeal of Elohim, but not according to knowledge. So now I need you to I need to clothe you in a white garment, a bod garment, a set apart garment. How you say alone? How you say it's not good that man should be bod, alone, separated. So that you may see. Actually, I said, yeah. White garments so that you may be clothed yourself and the shame of your nakedness may not be seen and the salve to anoint your eyes so that you may see. Those whom I love, I reprove. So why is he saying this? Because he Ahaba, he loves you. And discipline, so be zealous and repent. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in him and eat with him and he with me. Why? Because all this is a part of it. So why is this guy doing anything? Going back to Revelation chapter 3. Revelations, Hazum. Revelations chapter 3 and I think it's the same thing. It's Revelation chapter 2. Yeah, Revelation chapter 2 and verse 20. Hazon chapter 2 and verse 20. Revelations chapter 2 and verse 20. Revelations Hazon chapter 2 and verse 20. But I have this against you. Yahuwah got something against people. And people say, no, he doesn't. Yes, he does. He has all these riches that people collecting and they think they're righteous. Guess what? He got something against you. But I have this against you that you tolerate the woman Isabel, who calls herself a prophetess and is teaching and seducing my servants to practice sexual immorality and to eat food sacrificed to idols, right? Why do you mean eat food sacrificed to idols? Eating the teachings. You eating teachings sacrificed to idols, and then you ain't saying nothing about the harlot you got inside of you. The Zanah. Matter of fact, then you ain't saying nothing about the prophetess who thinks she can naba about the future, but yet the person is teaching other men and butt naked and teaching other people to do what? Fornicate, masturbate, do all types of things on the internet. And all these are a part of what? The understanding of the Torah. Because all this is a part of the things why they hate Yahusha. Because he said if they hated me, they're going to hate you too. Because the servant is no greater than his master. Then Yahuwah wished that all his people are Nabi and Nabiyahs. Real true Nabiyahs. Not the fake Nabi and Nabiyahs. Because everybody ain't real true Nabi and Nabiyahs. They're all fake Nabi and Nabiyahs. That's why they allow it. That's why they just sit there and they don't say anything. And it says, practice sexual morality and eat food sacrificed to idols. That's why Qahalath ate in the garden. What do you think that was? Food sacrificed to idols? Because when she ate from it, guess what? She caused other people to commit sin. Because you know the man gonna bear it all. Even though the woman doing all her dirt and all the evil in the world, the man gonna bear it all regardless. It doesn't matter what it may be. If she commit adultery, the man gonna bear it all. If she commit fornication, the man gonna bear it all. If she swindles somebody, the man gonna bear it all. If she sends out letters and emails and do all these things, they try to make somebody look a certain way and try to set somebody up to steal their land, the man's gonna bear it all. He's gonna bear it all. He gotta bear all of it. If she makes a decision to go and take a child and it says it's all his fault, exactly. The man's gonna bear it all. He gotta bear everything, because that's the way it is. But it says, verse 21, and I gave her time to repent. So Yahuwah is giving people time to repent. We just read it in Yeshayahu chapter 13. Because he's searching everybody's plans and plots. I'm giving you time to repent, to stop doing what you're doing. But you know what they say? But she refuses to repent of her sexual morality. She don't want to stop doing it and stop teaching other people to do it. Her adultery, her fornication, and her lying. By teaching through idols and idol worship. She's not going to stop. Because you know why? Because, you know, in 7 days from now, it's Kag Shabur. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to be like, I got the Ruach HaKodesh. I ain't did nothing of the other stuff before that. And you know what women are going to do? They're going to soak in all that teaching. And you know what? Then they're going to start passing it along. And the other men are going to learn it. And they're going to pass it along. And then guess what? I have the Ruach. Which is a lie. It's all a lie that you tell yourself. Behold, I will throw her into a sick bed. And that's what happens. You know who's going to bear it all? The man. She's going to be in her sick bed, and guess what happens? And those who commit adultery with her, and then the man going to be in, because you join, two become one. Both of y'all are going to be sick. Both of you are going to be sick. And you know what happens after that? And those who commit adultery with her, I will throw into great tribulation. And you're going to go through a whole, I told you. You're going through tribulation. You're going to go through so many trials and temptations and things because the Isha who taught you. Just like in the garden. Well, how did Adam bring death to Adam? The Isha in the garden. And you're going to have tribulation unless they repent of her works. Of their works? What works are they talking about? I thought it was their own works. No, it's her works. You got to get all her teachings and her idol worship and all that sexual thought process out of your mind that she taught you. You got to get it out of your consciousness. I mean, the specific date when you first started, from the root of it when you first started. You have to get it out of your thought process. You have to erase it from your memory. You have to literally do so much practice of the Torah to where it don't even come to mind anymore. Just like Mizraim. Because it's her works that you're repenting for. You're not her works. Because she taught it to you. She taught it to you. And then once you repent of her works, you be like, man, I made a mistake. I know. How much did you spend? Exactly. Her works, because it's all their stuff. And then and I will strike her children dead. Yahuwah Elohim, the same yesterday, today, and forever. You know, he's not going to do that. What happened? And I will strike her children dead. And all, you know, Yahushua says, humble yourself like a child. You become like a child. You know what happens to that? You grow up. Train up a child in the way he should go. When he is old, he will not depart. Why do you think men can't depart from fornication and adultery? Why do you think they can't depart from pornea? Because it was taught to them. They trained up in it to the way they should go. And when they old, they can't depart from it. Why? Because it's all been taught to you. That's all it's about. That's why a woman can't stop. When she's 40, 50, 30, because it's been taught to you. Train up a child in the way they should go. When he is old, they won't depart. And then when you create other disciples like you, then he says, I will strike her children dead, and all the children that are born from it, because it's children that get born from adultery too. And all the body, the congregation will know that I am he who searches the mind. There we go. He searches the souls by his debar. He searches the soul. Who searches the mind and heart, and I will give to each of you according to your work. So that's what you work. If I give you something of the value that you have, it's because that's how much you're worth. Because of what you learned. Because that's your works. But to the rest of you in Thyatira who do not hold to this teaching, because that's all it is. It's a teaching. If you still holding to it, if you still communicating with it, if you still have it in your heart and your mind, if you still have it in your thought process, if you still holding to it, guess what? It's teachings. Who have not learned what some call the deep things of Satan, Shaitan. Because that's all it is. Fornication, adultery, lying, swindling, robberies, evil joking. These are all the depths and the teachings of Satan. Fits of anger. These are all the teachings of Satan. How you think you do it? It's the teachings of Satan. To you I say, I do not lay on you any other burden. He said, all that knowledge that they have been teaching of Satan, those are the teachings of Shaitan. And if you still have it inside of you, which means you have the teachings of Shaitan on the inside of you. Right, this is the book of Galatians, chapter 3, chapter 4. Everybody has the teachings of Satan, right? Galatians chapter 5 and verse 10. Galatians chapter 5 and verse 16. Galatians chapter 5, verse 16. But I say, walk in the Ruach, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. Why? For the desires of the flesh are against the Ruach, and the desires of the Ruach are against the flesh. For these are opposed to each other. He said, you're going to fight. That's why people fight. Right? He said, what? Right, so this is the testament. This is why people fight. This is the testament, pseudepigrapha. The Testament of Shalom. Testament of Shalom, pseudepigrapha. Pseudepigrapha, or the Psalms of Shalom. Pseudepigrapha. Pseudepigrapha, Psalms of Shalom. Pseudepigrapha, volume 2. I don't have nothing written up. Psalms, Pseudepigrapha, volume 2, chapter 12. Psalms of Shalom. Yahuwah, save my soul from the criminal and the wicked man. So you think about all that. He said, Yahuwah said, you're a criminal. When you have those teachings in your mind. From the criminal and the slandering tongue, and that speaks lies and deceit. Why? Because these people will speak lies and deceit and teach these things. And then they speak in lies and deceit. And these are all the teachings of Shaitan. Why? The words of the wicked man's tongue are twisted in so many ways. Why? It's all right. Slow down. Wear a condom. That's what they say. The words of the wicked man's tongue are twisted in so many ways. And when you're Satan, Shaitan start getting your heart and your mind, you'll start to say things that are really not really coming to Kudush or Kudash. And it's going to become your destruction. And people think this is a game. It's not. They are a fire among the people which scorches its beauty. Why? Your tikfurat. You know, you're overlooking your offense. Your tikfurat is your beauty to overlook offense. Tikfurat. Eyes, put on strength. Your tikfurat. Osaon. When you put on the tikfurat, then you start to understand your beauty. When you take on these teachings, will be diminished. Guess what? His visits fill homes with a false tongue. That's what he does. And they come in your house. They even not only you hear it with your ozen, your ear, then they come inside of your physical house and they start spreading their teachings inside of your house to your isha, your nasheen, your children, your men servant, your maid servant, and even try to sleep with your donkey and your animals too, and all the other stuff that they do. Right? They're looking at the donkey butt, right? Or looking at the sheep and the goat, looking at the cow. Thinking about something sexual or some kind of physical thing they're getting ready to do. People do this. He said, go on YouTube, you'll see. They got stories of people sleeping with animals and goats. People got to chase people out of their own land just so people, they in there sleeping with the animals. Like literally. He visits homes with a false tongue and cuts down trees of joy, inflaming criminals. That's what happens. That's what happens. You inflame the criminals. That's what a woman is about. You inflaming the criminals to commit fornication with you. You got the teaching inside of you. And then you got inflaming the criminals and the trees of joy because the husband ain't got no more joy anymore because you done taught all the other men to commit fornication and adultery, right? And then now, guess what? He ain't got no joy no more. And guess what? You cut down trees of joy by slander. That's what people do today. They go on and start slandering your name because they want you to look a certain way, because they want to be exalted in a certain place. Because Yahuwah says, Shalom, Yahuwah searches the hearts and understanding of every plan. He already knew your plan before you created your plan. Before you created your plan. Before you did it. He visits he visits and fills homes with a false tongue, cuts down trees of joy, inflaming criminals by slander. And guess what? You know, people love to hear slander. That's why they gravitate to it. That's why they got all them views. They love when people slander and make up false accusation against somebody. They love it. It inflames the criminal on the inside of you. Because everybody a smooth criminal. You just don't know it. Everybody got smooth speech and smooth tongues. All you gotta do is inflame it inside of them and start a fire. They'll start speaking smooth words too. Everybody has smooth tongue. You can all turn into a Nakash at any time. Anybody can turn into a Nakash, a snake. Somebody speak enough smooth words to you, cunning, crafty words, matter of fact, you'd be so good at it, you'd be like, man, where did I learn this from? Not from you, right? By slander, he incites homes to fighting. That's what slander does. It'll bring your whole household to fighting. With a false tongue, somebody telling something a lie about her husband or about his Isha, or somebody creating some narrative from 10, 15, 20 years ago, and guess what? It'll mess up your whole future. By slander, it'll destroy trust. It destroys everything. And guess who taught it to you? It's the teachings of Shaitan. And guess what? May Elohim remove the lips of the criminals in confusion far from the innocent. And may the bones of the slanderers be scattered far from those who fear Yahuwah. Why? Because that's what happened. He said, I'm going to strike all your children dead. Why do you think he out of the valley of dry bones? What do you think all them people did? In Ezekiel 37. What do you think they did? Let me guess. They were so righteous and true and pure. No. That's Yahuwah's mercy, but here we go. May Yahuwah protect the quiet person who hates injustice. And may Yahuwah guide the person who lives peacefully at home. Why? Because in order to keep it peaceful, I assure you, you're going to have to get Shaitan up out of there. That's the only reason. That's the only way. This Galatians chapter 5, going back to Galatians chapter 5, verse 17. For the desires of the flesh are against the Ruach, and the desires of the Ruach are against the flesh. For these are opposed to each other, to keep you from doing what they want to do. Verse 19. Now the works of the flesh are evident. Sexual immorality. This is not, you already know what that is. Impurity, sensuality, idolatry, sorcery, enmity, strife, jealousy, fits of anger, robberies, dissension, divisions, envy, drunkenness, and such things like these I warn you, as I warned you before, that those who do such things will not inherit the kingdom of Yahuwah and Elohim, right? Going back to the slide, 1 Chronicles chapter 28 and 9. Dabre Hayamim 28 and 9. And you, Shalom, my son, know Elohim of your father and serve him with your whole leg and with a willing Naphash soul. For Yahuwah searches all the hearts and understands every plan and thought. If you seek him, he will be found by you. But if you forsake him, he will cast you off forever. That's what happens. Forever. Be careful now, for Yahuwah has chosen you to build a house for the sanctuary. Be strong and do it. Because he's chosen you, right? If you said, okay, 40 days, 7 days from now is Cox Boy, Yahuwah has chosen you. Why would he choose you out of everybody? Why would he choose you out of everybody, right? So that verse 9, that word for whole is shalem. 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 He says, serve Yahuwah with your whole heart. Shalem. That means it means complete. Your complete heart. Peaceful. Perfect. Finished. Heart. Why do you think Yahushua, when he said it is finished? even though he would blame and put all the sin on one person, and he bore the sin, he served Yahuwah with a finished heart. Why do you think he said it is finished? Say unharmed. We talked about in Yirmiyahu, having it and touch your heart on the walls of your heart. He said you won't have quiet on the inside. Because it touches the walls of your heart. Your heart can't be harmed. You have to serve Yahuwah with an unharmed heart. So if somebody comes with a slanderous tongue and brings you home to fighting, with a false tongue and deceit and teaching fornication and adultery and idol worship and strife and anger and resentment and all these things inside of you by slander, because that's the only thing that creates it, your heart is harmed by that person. It's harmed. And you have no peace. But people don't care about you. That's why they don't try to make those things go away. It says a friendly heart. You got to serve Yahuwah with a friendly heart. It also means peaceful, perfect. He said, wow, a friendly heart. This is the book of Psalms. This is the book of Tahalim or Proverbs. Just go to Proverbs chapter 18. Mostly Proverbs 18 and 20. Mostly Proverbs 18 and 20. Mostly Proverbs 18 and 20. It says, from the fruit of a man or woman's mouth, his stomach is satisfied. So, just like we talk about the fruit of your lips, offer to Yahuwah, a sacrifice of praise is the fruit of your lips. And Barak is Qahalath's name. That's how you're going to satisfy yourself. He is satisfied by the yield of his lips. So whatever you yield yourself, that's how you're going to be satisfied. What you say. So if I say something, I say ahaba, I need ahaba, right? If you say these things in your actions and you start slandering somebody, then guess what? You're going to be satisfied with it, because that's what's going to happen. If you're speaking words, smooth words to commit fornication and adultery, you're going to be satisfied with that, because that's what the satisfaction. You're satisfying what's on the inside of you. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. So these are all a part. We said, man, what are you speaking there? We just read where you said, I'm going to kill all your children dead. So what type of death is he talking about? Death and life are in the power of the tongue. What's gonna allow things to die inside of you by what you speak? If I say something out of my mouth that is of Satan, Shaitan, it's only to fulfill Satan on the inside of me. And I don't want to put him to death with life, with the debar. Why? Because if I don't speak to the bar, then it's not going to die inside of me. Death and life is in the power of the tongue. You're only satisfying the being that's on the inside of you. Because that's the only reason it's coming out of your mouth. Because the shadim, the demon, and Satan is on the inside of you, and he needs you to say those things to satisfy the actual appetite on the inside of you. That's the only reason it's in there. And then sometimes, he said, how he get in there? Because somebody taught it to you. Somebody taught it to you. That's why you're saying it. You say, I never use profanity, but now I'm using profanity. He's like, because somebody taught it to you. I never wanted to be with a woman that's married because somebody taught it to you. I ain't never wanted to fornicate and sleep around because somebody taught it to you. It had nothing to do with anything else. I never wanted to have rivalries and do all these things and argue back and forth because somebody taught it to you. And Satan on the inside of you, he needs you to continue to speak that in order to satisfy the appetite on the inside. And you keep giving life to him by what you speak. He said, so why are you, he said, that's why Yahuwah has to be so violent sometimes with his debar, because he doesn't want that desire to dwell in him anymore. Guess what? And it says right here, where we at? Yeah. Verse 21, death and life is in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. That's what's going to happen. If you continue to speak these things, you're going to love that fruit eventually. And you know what happens when you start speaking these words? Not just speak the bar when you sit in the house, walk by, when you lie on your rise up. When you speak slander, gossip, lying, false accusation, fornication, adultery, smooth words, smooth speech, you know what happens to you? You're going to love it. And you're going to love other people who do it. You're going to love it when they say it. And you're going to want to be with them. That's what's going to happen. You're going to love it. And you're going to want to be with the person who's doing it. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. He who finds a wife finds a good thing. Now he go from all that to saying he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor before Yahuwah. What are he talking about? You go from all that to saying he who finds an Isha. Because they ain't gonna have that. But guess what? The poor uses entreaties, but the rich answer roughly. See, there's a difference between a poor man and a rich man and how he finds a Isha. But here we go. This is what I want. A man of many companions may come to ruin, right? Because you can have many of them. And matter of fact, it's a wonderful thing. But in order to have Shalem and serve Yahuwah with a whole heart, you know what happens? It says, a man of many companions may come to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than any brother. Because everybody wants a Isha. Everybody wants a friend, many companions around. And when you're rich, you can do those things. You can do all those things. You can get a lot of people around you just by slandering and gossiping and making up things about people and false accusations. You get a whole bunch of likes. Matter of fact, you can get a whole bunch of views too. But that don't mean anything. And you can gain a lot of wealth too with it. Matter of fact, man, your checks be fat in your Google Dropbox. But guess what? Verse 19 says, better is a poor person who walks in his integrity than one who is crooked in his speech and is a fool. Right? Going back to the slide, that word for whole heart is shalem. It means a unharmed heart, a friendly heart. These are all a part of oneself. This is 2 Corinthians 10, 3 through 6. For though we walk in the flesh, right, so we walk as a natural man here, we are not waging war according to the flesh, because the works of the flesh are evident. For the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but have divine power to destroy strongholds. Why? Because these are all strongholds in people's lives. We destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of Yahuwah, because that's all it's doing. It's an opinion. It's an opinion. Smooth speech, smooth words is an opinion. It has nothing to do with how Yahuwah works. It's all a part of Nakash, right? This book of Yeshayahu 29. Yeshayahu 29. Yeshayahu 30, chapter 30. Yeshayahu chapter 30 and verse 8. Yeshayahu chapter 30 and verse 8. Yeshayahu chapter 30 and verse 8. And now go, write it before them on a tablet, and inscribe it in a book, that it may be for a time to come as a witness forever. That's the only reason it's there. For they are rebellious people, lying children. So how do you know you ain't going to be at 144,000? We have read in Hazum, Revelations, he said a lie ain't going to come out of their mouth. For they are blameless and they follow Yahushua everywhere he went. He said, but you are lying children. Children unwilling to hear the instructions of Yahuwah. who say to the Ra'ah or the seer, do not see. Because that's what happens when you have a zeal of Elohim, but not according to knowledge. For you being ignorant of Yahuwah's righteousness and establishing your own. He said, don't see it. Please don't say nothing about that. Oh my gosh, you just said that about Isabel and those who learn her teachings. Oh my gosh. Do not see it. Don't look at that. Please overlook that. And to the Nabi, do not prophesy to us what is right. Don't say what is right. Please don't do that. Speak to us smooth things. That's what everybody can turn into. It's smooth. It ain't really the truth though. Prophesy illusions. How you say myths. Leave the way. That's what they want. See, when you start talking like this, they want you to lead the way. They want you out their face. They want you to leave the way. That's why Yahushua said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. They don't want you to follow Yahushua Mashiach anymore. They want you to lead the way. Why? Turn aside from the path. They want you to turn aside from the path when you start talking about they foreign bearing children out of wedlock. And when you start doing things, you start sleeping around, you start setting people up, plotting and scheming, inviting people to dinner, knowing good and well it was about your women and your Ishad, and you try to set somebody up, and then you say, I knew it was not going to work, but then you already knew that what you already did. And then you know what they do? Speaking smooth things, not with illusions, leave the way and turn aside from the path. You know why they want you to turn aside from the path? So they can mock you. So they can slander you. So they can be satisfied by the fruit of their lips. So they can have evil joking. Because if you lead the way, then guess what happens? Then it becomes what? See, that's why they want you to stay silent. You know how it talks about? You know how they want you to do? They want you to be quiet. You don't need to teach anymore. Sit down. You know what happens when you start talking about these things? Then they want you to be silent. Because they already been satisfied by the things that they said out of their mouth and that went into their innermost parts of themselves. That demon, that shadim, that Satan on the inside of them. It's satisfying with the fruit of their lips. So now they have to continue to try to silence you, but not even knowing. They want you to turn aside from the path. Let us hear no more about the Qahalath one of Yasharal. They don't want to hear about Qahalath and Qahalath. They want to continue to do their stuff. They want to continue to look at women riding on camels. That's what they want to do. They want to continue to do their stuff. They don't want to actually submit themselves and stop drinking and getting drunk. They don't want to do that. They don't want to cancel out and abstain from certain things. They don't want to do it anymore. They want you to get out of the way, though. They want you to be quiet, though. They want you to get off the path, though. Why are you continuing anymore? Why are you still going forward? That's what they want. Therefore, thus says Yahuwah, the Qahalath one of Yasharal, because you despise his debar and trust in oppression and perverseness, because that's what they is. They perverted. It's called perverted. It's perversion. It has nothing to do with anything. They perverted. You know how women used to be acting, but when we grew up, they'd be like, you a pervert. You know how they say, you ain't no pervert now. Now it's normal. Nobody's a pervert no more. It's basically, who cares? It's full go. Right? And rely on them. You rely on your perverseness. You rely on it because it satisfies you with the fruit of your lips. That's the fruit of your lips. Why do you think they don't sing no song? It's something else that's satisfying their inward man. Therefore, this iniquity shall be to you like a breach in a high wall. See, now you see, now it done touched your heart. That iniquity done touched your heart. You know how he talks about it touched your lave, your mind. It touched your yetzer, your makashaba. It's a breach in your wall, bulging out, about to collapse. You know, you have one little brick that falls. It's like, and you see like the rocks falling off the side, but then the wall's still there. But you see the rocks coming off the side, you're like, man, it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time before it falls. Whose breaking comes suddenly in an instant. That's how it is with the childbirth. Isn't that how it is with a childbirth? The water broke, but it still ain't come yet. But eventually it's gonna go boom, right? Eventually it's gonna be born. And guess what? And its breaking is like the potter's vessel. It's just like a potter's vessel. That is smashed so ruthlessly that among its fragments not a shard is found. and which to take fire from the hearth, or to dip in the water of the cistern. Right? Going back to 2 Corinthians chapter 10, 3 through 6. For though he or she walk, although we walk in the flesh, we are not waging war according to the flesh. 2 Corinthians 10 and 3. For the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but have divine power to destroy strongholds. We destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of Yahuwah, and take every thought captive to obey Yahushua Mashiach, being ready to punish every disobedience when your obedience is complete. So what do you mean by punish? Because we just did the first month all the way to the third month. Because obedience has to be complete. Why do you think he had a second Pesach? Why do you think he had 40 days? Why do you think he left on the 40th day? Why was 49 days from the day he rose from the grave until he was taken in the cloud? Because you're trying to complete something. A finished heart. And guess what? So that word for flesh is sarx in Greek. He said, though we walk in the flesh, that word for sarx, it means skin. It says the food or meat of an animal, or a food of an animal. That's what it means. It also means as by extension of body, or opposed to soul and ruach. That's what the flesh is. External human nature, morally, passions, carnal or mind. We walk according, we're not waging war against it. We're not satisfying our flesh by the fruit of our lips and what we say out of our mouth. That's all it does. When you start speaking of the works of the flesh, it just satisfies the flesh. It has nothing to do with the ruach. If you're speaking things like that, then it has nothing to do with the ruach. Or what they say, anger. Don't let the sun go down on your wrath. But it's a certain type people need to understand. Right, so that word for punish is etkadio, right? It says we punish every disobedience, right? That's what it says. But that word for punish is ekkadio. It means to revenge, to vindicate. What do you mean vindicate? He said we vindicated. Why? Because when these things happen, it's a part of it, right? So they go in the book of Psalms. We almost finished. We almost done. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 24, chapter 35. Psalms chapter 35, verse 22. Actually, Psalms chapter 35 and verse 19. Psalms Tehillim 35 and 19. Psalms Tehillim 35 and 19. It says, let not those rejoice over me who are wrongfully my foes. He said they're rejoicing. Why? Because they're satisfying. How do you rejoice? With the fruit of your lips. That's why they're not offering a sacrifice of praise to the fruit of the lips. They're offering a sacrifice of slander. Offering a sacrifice of false accusation. Offering a sacrifice of robberies. Offering a sacrifice of evil joking. Offering a sacrifice of gossip. Offering a sacrifice of sexual morality and fornication. That's what they're offering from their mouth. Offer their sacrifice of schemes and plots. You scheme and plot with your mouth. Let not those who rejoice over me who wrongfully are my foes, and let not those who wink with the eye who hate me without a cause. Why do you think Yahushua said they hated me without a cause? It's not reading your Torah. They're going to say they hate me without a cause. For they do not speak shalom or shalom. Or you mean they don't speak with a complete heart, with a friendly heart, with a finished heart, with an unharmed heart. For they do not speak shalom, but against those who are quiet in the land, they devise words of deceit. Devise words of what? Smooth words, crafty words to those who are quiet, because they want you to sin. They want you to sin, so they devise a whole plot and a scheme with their words to get you to sin. They open wide their mouths against me. You know why they do it? They say, aha, aha, our eyes have seen it. The same thing when Yahushua's on totality, my Elohim, why hast thou forsaken me? Because they, we thought we saw some sin. You ain't had no sin. But at the same time, he said they always looking at things you do. We saw what you did, And it's what? Just like children in the marketplace. In Matthew chapter 11. It says, verse 22, you have seen, O Yahuwah, so Yahuwah saw you, and be not silent. So he ain't being silent right now. O Yahuwah, be not far from me, just like anybody. Just like when people say something. Awake and rouse yourself from my vindication. Now you see why Shaul just said, we vindicate all disobedience. When your obedience is complete. For my cause, my Elohim, my Yahuwah. Vindicate me, O Yahuwah, my Elohim, according to your righteousness. Why? Because they have a zeal of Elohim, but not according to righteousness. For they being ignorant of Yahuwah's Qahalath, his righteousness, and establish their own. And let them not rejoice over me, because they're going to rejoice. They're supposed to have the fruit of their lips to Yahuwah. But you know what they're rejoicing over? Over you, and your fall, and your sin, and your mistake, and your error. They literally rejoicing, having a great time, focused all on that, instead of focusing on, why are you not offering praise to Yahuwah anymore? But you know why they're doing it? Because they're trying to bring your life to fighting with a false tongue. Because it's the teachings of Shaitan. Let them not say in their hearts, our heart's desire, because that's what they speak out of their lips. It's satisfying their innermost parts of their belly and their heart. Because Shaitan and his demons are in it. Shadim on the inside of him. Autoleth is inside of them. Agbiwi inside of them. Adal, Aldi. Succubus and Ichabus spirits. Demons are inside of them. That's the only reason they're doing what they're doing. Let them not say, we have swallowed him up. That's what they do. They eat you up. But it says, let them be put to shame and disappointed together. All together. That's what they're doing. It's like a crows. We talked about the crows, how they get all together. Like they call them murders. Right? All the crows making all that noise, and it's all murders. They call them murders. Who rejoice at my calamity, they rejoicing at the fact that you took losses. They're rejoicing at the fact that your whole family been destroyed. They rejoicing at the fact that you got caught up through counsel, false counsels and false things. They rejoicing at it. They're rejoicing at the fact that they shook your hand and then they ended up tricking you. They're rejoicing at it. They're rejoicing at the fact that you lost everything. They're rejoicing at your natural carnal self, the carnal things, because they walk according to the flesh. Let them be clothed with shame and dishonor who magnify themselves against me, because that's all they're doing. They're not magnifying themselves, magnify Yahuwah with me. Let's exalt his name together. No. Let's magnify what he's going through and his calamity, all the things that happened to him, and let us exalt his name in our heart and our mind, that we may satisfy the demon and Shadim on the inside of us for our slender and our gossip and our lying that we created. Let them be clothed with shame and dishonor who magnify themselves against me. Let those who delight in my righteousness shout for joy and be glad. Why? Because that's what happens when you don't have a false tongue in your house. It ain't bringing your homes to fighting, and then the joy that you have. The tree of joy is now grown inside of the household when you get rid of those things. And guess what? And say evermore, great is Yahuwah. So great is that person and everything he's in and everything that they happen in them. No, great is Yahuwah, who delights in the welfare of his servants. See, they ain't delighting in your welfare. They're delighting in your embarrassment. They're delighting in your error and in the things you've been through. They're delighting in your calamity. They're delighting in your pain. They're delighting in your adversity. They're delighting in your calamity. They're not delighting in the very things that are Yahuwah. They're delighting in those things, your losses. They're not delighting in your welfare. They don't want good to happen to you. Then my tongue shall tell of your righteousness, and your praise all the day long. He said, because now his heart is now unharmed. Because now they have now been dealt with by Yahuwah himself. So now his heart is not unharmed. Now he can serve Yahuwah with his whole heart. With his nefesh, his soul. Right? And he said, vindicate me, right? But he said, we bring every thought, off the opinion against Yahuwah and bring it captive to obey Yahushua Mashiach. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 10. Why would he say that? He said, you bring it captive to obey Yahushua Mashiach. This is Bereshit chapter 1, verse 26. Then Yahuwah Elohim said, let us make Adam in our image, and after our likeness, and let them have Radah. That's why he says we're bringing every thought captive to what? To obey Yahushua Mashiach. We're bringing every thought captive to obey Yahushua Mashiach, to Radah, to have dominion over those thoughts, to obey Yahushua Mashiach of the flesh. Because remember what the flesh starts, right? What did it say? Of beasts, of animals. Right? Let them have dominion over the Gah, right? The fish of the sea, and over the oath of the Shamayim, the birds, and over the Bahima, that's the beasts of the earth, and over every Ramiz that creeps on the earth. Why? Because these are all the things that Adam had dominion over. And when people conduct themselves outside of the halal, the praise of Yahuwah, and satisfy themselves with the fruit of their own lips, they're literally devouring you just like you would see animals being devoured, like meat, like you're like flesh to them. So as Adam, you have to bring those thoughts that they're sowing and they're putting out into subjection so that you can rule, radah them, dominate them. And the only way you do that, Yahuwah, vindicate me. Bring them to shame, these insectoids. You ever had an insectoid, a fly just fly around you? He just annoying as heck. Right? You know how it is? And you want to just go. That's exactly how Yahuwah feels when people start slandering and gossiping and lying and creating all these things. He want to smash you down too. The same thing with an animal, he gore, man. You get what? Yahuwah said, I'm going to put that animal to death. Verse 26, then Yahuwah Elohim said, let us, so that word for dominion is radah. It means to have dominion, to subjugate, to scrape out, to tread down, that is to subjugate, to crumble. So it means to bring a person or group or nation under complete control, typically by force, to make them submissive. That's the whole point of it. That's why you got to bring every thought into obedience to Yahushua Mashiach. Because if you don't, you're going to find yourself in a situation where you're going to be like a beast in his sight, or like something that is like an animal that he don't want. Because there's certain types of animals Yahuwah wants, and there's certain animals he don't want. Right, so they're going to the book of Psalms Tahalim. Actually, go to Zephaniah chapter 1. Go to Zephaniah chapter 1. Zephaniah chapter 1 and verse 2. Zephaniah chapter 1 verse 2. I will utterly sweep away everything from the face of the earth, declares Yahuwah. So that's how he looks at everybody. And I will sweep away man and beast. So everything that is not in subjection, that's subjugated to him, that doesn't obey him, he's going to sweep you off the earth. And I will sweep away all the birds of the Shamayim. So every animal Yahuwah don't want. And every Ish, man, Adam, Yahuwah don't want. And every beast he don't want. And every bird he don't want. And the fish of the sea, and certain fish he don't want. And the rubble with the wicked I will cut off mankind from the face of the earth, declares Yahuwah. Everything Yahuwah don't want on earth, I assure you. There's certain man and woman he don't want. There's certain animals he don't even want. And it ain't talking about eating animals and cleaning up. We're talking about behaviors, things that you do. And I will stretch out my hand against Yehuda and against all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and I will cut off from this place the remnant of Baal. There are some things that Yahuwah don't want. Why do you think Yahushua went into the temple and started beating those animals and those people out of there? Because there's certain animals and things he don't want. Because that was a remnant of Baal. That's the remnant of Baal worship. And the name of the idolatrous Kohanim priests, along with the priests, those who bow down on the roofs of the host of the Shemaims, and those who bow down and swear to Yahuwah, and yet swear to Milcom, to another Elohim, another God. You know how people got two gods? I got this God, I got this name, and then I got this name, and this other God too, and that one. And then I bow to Yahuwah, pray to him. And I'm a priest too, king and priest. And you know what you do? You know what people do? They listen. They take it in their ozin, and then you know what they do? They ingest it. Those who have turned back from following Yahuwah, they fell away. They fell away. These people fell away. You know, people say, you done fell away. And you know what's going to happen when they fall away? Who do not seek Yahuwah or inquire of him. They're not even seeking Yahuwah. Because they ain't doing what they ain't doing with their whole heart or their whole soul. Their soul. Verse 7 says, be silent before Yahuwah Elohim, for the day of Yahuwah is near. Yahuwah has prepared a sacrifice and consecrated his guests. He said, man, he done did it. And on the day of Yahuwah's sacrifice, I will punish the officials and the king's son. He said, I'm going to get you. I'm going to get the official, the head, and your son of Yehuda. I'm going to get the head person and your son. And all who array themselves in foreign attire. He said, I'm going to get you. Because you ain't dressed properly. I clothe you in white garment, but what you got on? On that day, I will punish everyone who leaps over the threshing hole and those who fill their master's houses with violence and fraud. Who do you think the master of the house is? The Ish. But then the people inside are full of violence and fraud and lies. Because you ain't supposed to be in the master's house with violence and fraud. Kamas, unjust gain, and fraud, and violence. On that day, declares Yahuwah, a cry will be heard from the fish gate. From where? From the fish gate. A wail from the second quarter. A loud crash from the hills. He said, what? He said, on that day you heard a cry from the fish gate and a wail from the second quarter. Why do you think Yahushua cried out twice? He said, there was a wail in the second quarter, a loud crash from the hills. Wail, O inhabitants of the mortar, for all the traitors are no more. Uh-oh. We talked about it last week. What do you think gonna happen? He said, all the traitors are no more, and all who weigh out silver are cut off. As I said, Yahuwah can shake the whole earth right now. And then what good is all that stuff, your trade and your silver, after he did that today, right now? What if he did it right now? You know what? I don't care if Yahuwah sends an 8.5. It ain't gonna do nothing to my house and how I live. And at that time, I will search Jerusalem with lamps. Now you see why he said, how you going to do that? If he cut off your 7 manure, we just talked about the 7, he who holds the 7 manure in his right hand, how you going to do that? He said, I'm going to cut off, and I will search Jerusalem with his lamps, the 7 lamps. And I will punish the men who are complacent, because these are all a part of your life. Those who say in their hearts, What do you mean say in their hearts? Which means they have to be satisfied by the fruit that come out of their mouth, the fruit of their lips. Who say in their heart, their Yetzer Makashba, Yahuwah will not do good, nor will he do ill. Their goods shall be plundered, and their houses laid waste. Though they build houses, they shall not inhabit them. Though they plant vineyards, they shall not drink wine with them. Man, Yahuwah ain't gonna do nothing. That's exactly what they say. He ain't gonna do nothing. The great day of Yahuwah is near, near and hastening fast. The sound of the day of Yahuwah is bitter. You know why? Because you gave Yahusha sour wine. So Yahuwah said, I'm gonna give you the same thing. The mighty man cries aloud there. That's why Yahusha cried out. He gonna do it to you. Because you did it to his son. He said, you destroyed his son. So therefore, I'm going to do it to you. A day of wrath in that day, a day of distress and anguish, a day of ruin and devastation, a day of darkness and gloom, a day of clouds and thick darkness, a day of Turah, trumpet blast, and a battle cry against the fortified cities and against the lofty battlements. It's coming. Turah is coming. He said, no, it ain't. Yeah, it is. And I will bring distress on mankind, so that they shall walk like the blind. Why did he say, I counsel you to buy gold tried in the fire and anoint your eyes that you may see? Because they have sinned. And like, you know how Saul said, I have sinned. I have sinned. Because they have sinned against Yahuwah. Their blood shall be poured out like dust. Just like when he pierced Yahushua in the side, all that blood came out. He said, that's the same thing I'm going to do to you. And their flesh like dung. Neither their silver nor their gold shall be able to deliver them. On that day of the wrath of Yahuwah, in the fire of his jealousy, he said, I don't care how much money you spend. It ain't going to work. All the earth shall be consumed. For a full and sudden end, he will make the inhabitants of the earth. And that's what people need to understand about Yahuwah. Right, this is the book of Revelations. This is the book of Hazun. This is the book of Revelations. Hazun, book of Revelations. Book of Hazun, Revelation chapter 3 and verse 8. Hazun, Revelation chapter 3 and verse 8. Revelation chapter 3 verse 8. I know your works. Behold, I have set before you an open door. Now you see what today? What's this month? This is the third month. This is the third month. And a lot of people ain't registered. They ain't do the first Pesach or the second Pesach. As a matter of fact, he said there's an open door right now. What do you mean? There is an open door. You know, it ain't no open door. As often as you do this, you remember on death and suffering till I come. What today is? There's 7 days left. What you doing? There is an open door, which no one is able to shut. There's an open door right now. That's what the third letter of the Aleph is. That's why it's the third month. Aleph Bis Gamo. Actually, that's the third. Actually, the third is Gamo, reward. I know your works. Behold, I have set before you an open door, which no one is able to shut. Right? So you look at the reward that you're able to get. When you're talking about looking at camels, it's an open door. It's an open door. The Daleth is open. How you say the Daleth is open? And he said the Daleth open. And the Gamo, right? Because it's the third month. We're moving toward the longest day. I know that you have but little power, and yet you have kept my debar and have not denied my name. That's exactly what we just read. That's what we read last week. We talked about Dawid. He said, though I'm small, yet I don't forget your precepts. But guess what he said? Behold, I will make those of the synagogue of Shaitan, or the Aydah of Shaitan, who say they are Yahudim and are not, but lie. Behold, I will make them come bow down before your feet. He said, I'll make them come bow down before your feet. And they will learn that I have loved you. He said, you're going to learn that he loved me. Because you kept the word about patient endurance, because that's the whole point. When who does things to you, you're supposed to continue to do it. You're supposed to continue to move forward, regardless of what people do. Patient endurance, you got to endure. I will keep you from the hour of trial that is coming on the whole world. So please don't be thinking it ain't going to happen. You know what people say? Ain't nothing going to happen. To try those who dwell on the earth. Everybody going to get tried, and you're going to find out where your Amunah at. We're going to find out. We're going to find out where your Amunah at. Because that's the whole point. I am coming soon. It says, hold fast what you have so that no one may seize your crown. They're trying to take your crown away. Why do you think they would say, speak to us smooth things? Get out of the path. Naba the seat, because they want to take your crown. Be quiet. You don't need to say anything anymore. That's what they want, because they want to take your crown. That's the whole point. Because it's all craftiness. It's all craftiness. That's why they want you to stop. Right? This is the book of Ezekiel, Yakaziel. He's actually going to the book of Enoch. Let's go to Enoch, first Enoch, pseudophographer. Enoch, first Enoch, Hanuk, pseudophographer, volume 1, first Enoch, let's get there, chapter 3, and verse 1. That's enough. You go to Ezekiel, first Enoch chapter 6. First Enoch, Hanuk chapter 6 and verse 1. First Enoch chapter 6 and verse 1. And in those days when the children of Adam had multiplied, it happened that there were born unto them handsome and beautiful, or beautiful daughters. And the Malachim, the children of Shamayim, saw them and desired them, and they said one to another, come, let us choose wives from ourselves from among the daughters of man, and beget children. Why? These are strange women. These are strange practices for a Malachim. And Shemyaza, being the leader, said to them, I fear that perhaps you will not consent that this deed should be done, and I alone will become responsible. So I told you, what everybody else do, just like in the household, each or somebody's over people, you're going to bear all the punishment of what people do. Why do you think Yahusha said, the reproach of those who reproach you, who it fell on me? That's why all the things have to fall on you. Because Shemyaza the leader. You the leader, you're going to bear it. I fear perhaps you will not consent to this deed should be done, and I alone will become responsible for this great sin. But they all responded to him, let us all swear an oath and bind everyone among us by a curse not to abandon this suggestion, but to do the deed. Why? Because they're satisfied by the fruit of their lips. The fruit, the parid, lashon, their language, and the lips, the things that they speak out of their mouth. That's why when people speak to the bar, everybody gravitates to it, and they satisfied with it. They believe it, and the deeds that they do are okay for them because of the words that they speak out of their mouth. It's okay. That's why Yahusha said in Rel Hazun, he said, I have these things against you because you tolerate it. So therefore, if you continue to tolerate it, we used to always have this thing when we played sports. They used to say, you either coaching it or you allowing it to happen. It's either one of the two. Because you're a leader. You're the person. You either coaching or you teaching it. You either teaching it or you allowing it to happen. Ain't got nothing to do with nothing else. Because Yahuwah in the sky, he don't lie. He above you. You either teaching it or you're allowing it to happen. That's the whole point. And it says, and I fear that perhaps you will consent to this deed and should be done, and I alone will become responsible for this great sin. But they all responded to him, let us all swear an oath and bind everyone among us by a curse and not to abandon this suggestion of the old serpent, Shaitan, but to do the deed. Then they all swore together and bound one another by the curse. Let it fall on us and our children. And they what they did when they took Yahushua, when they took Barabbas. And they were altogether 200, and they descended into Aydah, which is the summit of Hermon. And they called the Mount Armon. And they swore and bound one another by a curse. So they flowed just like down from the river. You know, they came, you know how if you're on a mountain, the water flows down from the river. Like a river that comes down. And then it flows down to the lower parts. And then guess what happens? Then everybody gets watered with whatever they say. That's what happens. As rain and snow come down from Shaly'shy, the water flowed down from the mountain. And then they came down to the daughters and children of Adam. And guess what? And they were altogether 200, and they descended into Aydah, which is the summit of Hermon, and called the Mount Armon. And they swore and bound one another by a curse, and their names are as follows. Right? So Yahuwah taking names. Shemyaza, leader of Archabad. Ramiel, Tamiel, Ramael, Daniel, Ezekiel, Barakal, Azael, Amaros, Batal, right? Amael, Zakael, Samasfaal, Kasasharal, Turiel, Ramael, Arazal. These are the chiefs of tens, and of all others with them. What do you mean chiefs of tens? How many tribes? When they came and spied the land last week, how many tribes were it? 10 tribes that caused the other people to fall, and that their dead bodies were going to be in the wilderness. So who did it? And they were the chiefs. Those 10 tribes, they were the chiefs. By their words, they were satisfied by the fruit of their lips. And it caused them not to inherit the promise. That's what happens. Your fruit of your lips cause you not to inherit the promise. And they took wives with themselves, and every one respectively chose one woman for himself, and they began to go unto them. And they taught them magical medicine, incantations, the cutting of roots, and taught them about plants. Oh, you mean, yeah. How you think Isabel learned all that to teach to seduce his servants to commit fornication? How you think he did that? Let me guess, she was taught by who? Taught her. And guess what? And the woman became pregnant and gave birth to great giants. He said, I'm going to kill all your children and make it. Oh, he said, you suffer that woman Isabel to teach, huh? And seduce my servants to commit fornication. And then they bore children. He said, I'm going to throw all those men into tribulation and the children, and I'm going to put all their children dead. And that's what Yahuwah did. That's how you know you're living in the days of Noah. You said, I ain't living in the days of Noah. Yes, you are. You're living in the days of Noah. Great giants whose heights were 300 cubits. These giants consumed the produce of all the people until the people detested feeding them. He's like, man, we tired of feeding y'all. And guess what? So the giants turned against the people in order to eat them. Let them not say in their heart they have devoured me. And then what we just read it down. Please don't. They devouring me. Let them not say in their heart they devoured me. Vindicate me, O Yahuwah. Please. all they're doing is eating the produce of all the people to the point where you detest feeding these people. So the giants turned against the peoples in order to eat them. That's what happens when you start speaking the truth to the bar. They want to eat you and swallow you up like a piece of meat. Like they want to eat human flesh. That's why you think Yahushua said, you don't eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no life in you. These words I speak unto you, they are ruach and they are life to heal your innermost parts of your ruach, man. And they began to sin against birds. Oh, here we go. Now you see why we just read in Safanyah, how you going to get rid of them birds. Because you're supposed to have dominion over them. But guess what you did? They sinned against birds, wild beasts, reptiles, and fish. And behemoth too. They began to sin against them too. And guess what they did? And their flesh was devoured the one by the other. That's what happens. This is what happens. The things you consume and how you eat destroys everybody else. And the very things you eat, your fruit of your lips, what you speak, it ain't no praise to Yahuwah. When you start speaking to your flesh, all you thinking about is flesh. And then guess what happens? This is why Isha destroy their husband, because the teachings of the fallen. This is why you think, why you think, why do women, when they want to go commit adultery, they act crazy? Because the teachings of Shemjaza, Azazel, Osbal, and the 200 fallen, they came down from the Mount Hermon and came into our heart and our mind. And then she went after them. They gave it to you. We create the dream world. Shemjaza, Azazel, Osbal brings you into that dream world, and you feel it with your subconscious. And it becomes your reality. And by it becoming your reality, then guess what? Penuel writes it down real nice and neat. And guess what happens? You feel it with your subconscious and you want to do it. And guess what? And their flesh was devoured one after the other, and they drank blood. Why? When you start drinking blood, it changes your genome. You take on the animalistic behavior of that specific animal that you drink the blood of, and it gets in your DNA and it corrupts your code. And then you want to have intercourse with a person and create a child. Then that DNA code is inside of your bloodstream, and then you create a child, and the seed is corrupted. And then guess what happens after that? You create a half man, half woman, half cat, half man, half reptile, alligator, snake. You create half man, half everything. Goat. Because now it's in your DNA. It's corrupted your DNA. That's what happens when you sleep with an animal. That's what happens when you cohabitate and you put DNA, animal strands inside of you. You turn into that. You're easily manipulated. It's easy to create something that's outside of what you originally created. And guess what? And then the earth brought an accusation against the oppressors. Now you see why? He said, I'm gonna remove the earth off this place. I'm gonna take the earth and remove it out of this place. You know what happens? Then I'll be able to move things out the way, and then I'll make a people or a man more fine like gold. It's gonna be so hard to find somebody. That's what's gonna happen. That's the whole point. Going to chapter 8. Actually, yeah, that was actually chapter 7. I skipped over, yeah. I read through that. Yeah. But yeah, you're going to 1 Enoch chapter 8 and verse 1. Now, Azazel taught the people art of making swords and knives. That's why we said the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. It's not carnal. That's why they give you knives. Why do you think they give you knives and things? So you can use them. Because you think your weapon, that's your weapon to defend yourself. But in actuality, it's not. Because you need to destroy the shadim on the inside and make you pick up the weapon and want to kill somebody. Or want to do something. You're satisfied by the fruit of your lips, and it feeds the thing on the inside to where it now manifests in reality. And he taught swords and knives and shields and breastplates. Now you see why he gives us put on the whole armor of Yahuwah, that you may be able to stand the wiles and the teachings of Satan. Because he got teachings too. So you got to put on your armor to fight against his teaching. Because if you don't fight against his teaching, you're going to be like Isabel. or they say you suffer that woman Jezebel. They just use that as a reference. It's just an idol worshiper, because she is the daughter of Athabal, son of Baal. That's why he said, I'm going to cut off the remnant of Baal in Jerusalem. She's just an idol worshiper. That's could be any idol worshiper. It ain't just Isabel and Baal's God. It could be another God too. It could be a male or a female. Because a man can teach a woman to commit fornication too. How you think Amnon taught his sister how to commit fornication? He's crafty. Right? That's how it works. They can teach you. It's a teaching. And then they want to put you away after they did what they want. And you know what happens after that? He said, if you put him away, it's more even than the thing you did to me. That's the whole point, because you can't do that. But these are all a part of the teachings of Satan, of Shaitan. Verse 8, and Isaiah taught the people art of making swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and he showed to their chosen ones. Isn't that what Isabel we just read in the Revelations? Hazum. He said, I've chosen you. Didn't we just read that he chose us? I have chosen you. He chose you to build a house. We just read in Dabarim HaYamim. I chose you. He taught his chosen ones bracelets, decorations, shadowing of the eyes with antimony, ornamentations, and beautifying of eyelids, and all kinds of precious stones. This is why Yahushua came on the scene. Martha, 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 you are so troubled about so many things. But she chose that which cannot be taken away from her. Why do you think Yahushua was coming on the scene? He said, sell all you have and give to the poor. You have treasures in Shamayim. Why do you think he's coming? Why do you think Shemjaza came down and teach the women this stuff? And then the women started teaching other people. And then the women started teaching this to other people, and it spread. And they started teaching their children. Now you got a man wearing makeup, looking like a woman. But he's strapped though. And he got a knife, and he got a gun, and he looked like a woman. And he got eyeshadow on with a dress. But he got a gun though. Who taught it to him? Somebody taught it to you. I just turn you into this type of superhero. Why do you think they put them things on TV? People say, why? And it says, and it taught them magical medicines, incantations, cutting of roots, and taught them about plants. And the woman became pregnant and gave birth to great giants. Wow, when that man come with that type of teaching, boy, woo, let me get pregnant by you. They don't want to hear about Yahushua Mashiach. They want to hear that. And when they get pregnant with that, they like, man, I'll have your baby. You teaching that type of knowledge? Magical medicines, incantations? You teaching me how to do that? Cutting of roots, taught them about plants? And you teaching us self-defense? And guess what it says? And they gave birth to giants whose heights were 300 cubits. These giants consumed all the produce of the people, right? That's verse 7. I'm sorry. That's chapter 7. But I know I'm going all over the place. Going to verse 8, chapter 8. And Azazel taught the people arts of making swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and he showed their chosen ones bracelets and decorations, and shadowing of eyes, and antimony, and ornamentations, and beautifying the eyelids, and all kinds of precious stones, and the coloring of tinctures, and alchemy. I taught you magic. All these are a part of it. That's chapter 8, the pseudepigrapha. And there were many wicked ones, and they committed adultery and erred. I told you. They all erred and they committed adultery. They were wicked ones. That's what they're turning you into. Why do you think Shemjaza teach you all this? Why do you think Azazel teach you all this? He's trying to turn you into an adulterous woman and make you commit error, woman. hardcore. He want you. He wouldn't bring that to me. Be like, yeah, you know, bracelets, decoration, showering of antimony, or beautifying an eyelid, precious stone, color, attention, alchemy. Man, he ain't gonna bring that stuff to me. Man, please. I'm gonna throw that stuff in his face. He gonna bring it to you. And there were many wicked ones, and they committed adultery and error. That's what's gonna happen to you. Why you need to put all that stuff on you? You know, it's when people start to change their behavior. That's why Qahalath said not with bracelets and ornaments, because he was saying that when you put these things on, it turns you into a harlot. Only thing you're gonna do is attract another man. You want to attract somebody for adultery, fornication, and you're gonna make people err. You're gonna teach them to commit fornication because you learned it from Azazel. Because these are the teachings of Azazel. So when you put it on, you're going to immediately want to commit adultery, fornication, and attract somebody because you did all that work to learn all that teaching from Azazel. So what's the point of learning it if you ain't going to put it into practice? I'm learning it. What's the point of me? It's like the Torah. Why am I learning all this stuff and not put it into practice? It makes no sense. So it's the same thing when you learn things in the world. If I learn coding, what's the point of me learning it if I don't want to put it into practice? If I learn to do all these things that Azazel taught a woman, what makes you think what you think she's trying to do? And all their conduct became corrupt. Why do you think all the women messed up today? In the mind. Everybody's conduct messed up. That means behavior. Amaros taught incantations and cutting of roots, and Amaros the resolving incantations, and Barkariel astrology, and Karkuriel the knowledge of the signs, and Tamiel taught seeing of the stars, and Azrael taught the course of the moon. Notice how they are. The moon is the yard. That's the woman. I'm telling you, you are the target. How come he ain't teaching the course of the sun? Because Hanuk taught that. People say, what? The moon, as well as and it says the course of the moon, as well as the deception of Adam, the man. You see what happened to him? And guess what happened? And the people cried, and their voice reached into Shamayim. Why? Because of all these teachings. Everybody's voice ain't cried now. Only the chosen people cried out to Shamayim. Everybody wasn't just crying to Shamayim. The people who were taught these things and following these things, they were not crying no Shamayim and no Yahuwah. They wasn't. They were not crying out no Yahuwah. They were not praising Yahuwah. They were satisfying with the fruit of their lips and what they're going to do and the behaviors they're going to do and the corrupt things they're going to do every single week. They weren't praising Yahuwah 7 times a day, and they was not keeping no shabath. They wasn't doing anything Yahuwah told them to do. So they were this is all they were talking about. They can care less. Yeah, that stuff, yeah, it's just this and that. Yeah, we know that. And that's what they would do. That's all a part of it, though. And then going to chapter 9. First Enoch, this is the last thing. Chapter 9, verse 1. Then Michael, Sepharol, and Gabriel observed from the sky. And they saw much blood being shed upon the earth. You say, they observing. And all the oppression being wrought upon the earth. And they said to one another, the earth from her empty foundation has brought the cry of their voice unto the gates of the Shamayim. He said, how the earth bring the cry of their voice to the Shamayim? You ever seen when lightning flash? You ever seen lightning? You see lightning come down like this from the sky, right? But then you'll see lightning that come up from the earth sometimes that flash up. You ever seen that? The lightning will flash up from the earth to the Shamayim. And guess what? And their voice unto the ends of Shamayim. And now, Kudash ones of Shamayim, the souls, the Naphash, the souls of the people are putting their cases before you, pleading. bring our judgment before your Most High. And they said to Yahuwah of the Puntanas, for he is master of masters and Elohim of Elohim and Malak of Malakim, and the seat of his kabod stands throughout all generations of the world. Your name is Chdsh and Barak and glorious throughout the world. You have made everything, and with you is the authority for everything. Everything is naked. Everything is naked and open before your sight. We just read that. Isn't it what Shalom said? Isn't it what Dawid said to Shalom? Isn't it what we read in Hazon Revelation? Everything is naked in your sight. And we read that in Hebrews, Avery, chapter 4. And you see everything. He know all your plots and your thoughts and your plans. So you got to serve Yahuwah with an unharmed heart, with a complete heart, with your soul, with your whole nefesh, your soul. And there is nothing which can hide itself from you. So you think you hiding? So get what he said. You see what Azazel has done. How he has taught all forms of oppression on the earth, and they revealed eternal secrets which are performed in Shamayim, and which man learned. Moreover, Shemyaza, to whom you have given power to rule over his companions, cooperating. So you actually going to cooperate with Nicey in Romans chapter 1. He says they know Yahuwah's righteous decree. They not only do them, but they know Yahuwah's righteous decree, but also have pleasure in those who do them. You literally are cooperating with it. They went in unto the daughters of the people of the earth, and they lay together with them and those women, and defiled themselves, and revealed to them every kind of sin. What you think gonna happen when you commit adultery and fornication? What did it say? Shemjaza and them married those women, right? And they say take them wives, right? Through a covenant, an everlasting covenant that cannot be broken, right? Is that what it is? No, they took wives. They took other men's wives. They took other men's wives. They say took them wives. When they say took them wives, they were taking wives. It didn't matter if they were. It wouldn't matter if they were with a man. Right? I think Yahuwah always devoted women to destruction when they known the man. They were taking wives that were married. They were taking daughters and fornicating with them. They didn't care. Women who slept with animals. They don't care. And as for the women, they gave birth to giants to the degree that the whole earth was filled with blood and oppression. I mean sin. And now behold, the Qahalath one will cry, and those who have died will bring their suit up to the gate of Shamayim. Their groaning has ascended to Shamayim, but they could not get out from before the face of the oppression that is being wrought on the earth. He said, because there's so much sin and unjust gain and all these things on the earth. He said, no prayer can get up. No prayer can get out of here. Because they literally intercept it before it does. Why do you think y'all is tech? They hear your prayer. Why do you think all these things take your message and next you know, hey, Aydah, yes, I have the answer for you right here. This is the way that a man should be, or a woman should be, or they have already had an AI bot already like trying to tell you already an answer already before your prayer even get back. They already got voices already out here to tell your behind before you even get up off the ground. You look at your phone, they already, man, the thing already gave me an answer. You want an answer to your prayer? It's right here. They already got the bot already making it for you. People say, you have no idea, man. They already got a counter already for what I'm getting ready to say right now. They already do. And you know everything even before it came into existence, right? Just like before the prayer even got up out of the earth, right? They already got the prayer right there uploaded, downloaded. They already got the prayer, and then they got the prayer right there, and they got the answer to your prayer right there on your phone, right there on your face. If you ain't seen this yet, you really need to be paying more attention to what's going on. And you see this thing, but you do not tell us what is proper for us that we may do regarding it. That's exactly what they not going to do. They not going to tell you what's proper. What do you think they're going to do? You think they're going to tell you the truth? No, it's all deception. And it says, verse 10, chapter 10, and then spoke the Most High, the great Qahalath one, and he sent Azurah, the son of Lamech, saying, tell him my name, hide yourself. Tell him in my name, hide yourself, and reveal to him the end of what is coming. For the earth and everything will be destroyed, and the deluge is about to come upon the earth, and all that is in it will be destroyed. And now instruct him in order that he may flee, and his seed will be preserved for all generations. So that's why he said, you keep the word of my patience. I'm going to keep you from the hour of temptation that's coming upon the earth. And secondly, Yahuwah said to Raphael, bind Azazel hand and foot and throw him into darkness. So that's what you call healing. He said, take Raphael and bind him into utter darkness, right? And guess what? And he made a hole in the desert, which was Dudael, and cast him there. You better thank Yahuwah for Enoch. You know? Because of these things, he said, man, why I need Enoch book? I assure you, if the Malachi was still here, you wouldn't be here. Remember, he got to shut things up for things to happen. Think about it. What means shut up? That means shut up. How you going to get people to shut up? How you think you get people in the world to shut up? You know, people bring it up, revealing all these secrets of the Malachi, and they be putting all this higher consciousness stuff. They lock their behind up. Why do you think Yahuwah be locking these people up? People say, why he be locking them up? Because you don't understand. If these people keep going, they're going to deceive the whole world. So Yahuwah got to say, lock him up. Lock him up. Lock him up. Lock him. I need things to happen. Why do you think he be locking these people up? You be like, man, why they come up with that? They falsely accusing. Lock him up. Lock him up. He needed people locked up. They can't have the people out here teaching this stuff. What do you think gonna happen? This is not a game. People think this is a joke. Yahuwah don't be playing out here. He got other people to do other things. That's why you don't play around with them. You play around with them, I promise you. Right? You're gonna be like, I'm like Kof. No, you're not. You know, I was in prison. Kof was in prison. Yusuf was in prison. Mishal was in prison. Nah, you're not like them. Don't do that. And he said, Raphael, bind Azazel hand and foot and throw him into outer darkness. And he made a hole in the desert, which was in Dudael, and cast him there. And he threw on him rugged and sharp rocks, and he covered his face in order that he may not see light. And that's what Raphael, that's what healing happens inside of your body. When the teachings of Azazel die inside of you, Raphael has now come to dig a hole and cast Azazel teaching inside of there, and throw sharp stones on top of it, and grind on top of his head, and he afraid to move. You ever seen a sharp stone like crystal, and it's like right there in your head? He just sitting there like this. Anything you move your head, he gonna jab you right in your neck, right? That's literally what he has. And guess what? And he threw on top of him rugged, sharp rocks, and he covered the face in order that he may not see a light. Why? Because he had to heal you. That's what Raphael name means, healing of Elohim. And what do you mean? Why he don't need to see light? Because if that Raphael, if that Azazel see light, what happens when the sun reaches its highest point? Everything starts to bolt. It starts to bear fruit. And then when it bears fruit, what happens? It grows. So he planted the seed in the ground so it can never see light. He put it so deep. You know, you put a seed so deep, it can't come up. And in order that he may be sent into the fire of on the great day of judgment, and give life. Guess what he said? Great day of judgment, and give life to the earth, And give life to the earth. He said, and give life to the earth, which the Malachim have corrupted. And he will proclaim life for the earth. That's why Yahushua said, I've come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. I come to heal you of Azazel. That he is giving life to her. That he is giving life to her. Why do you think we talked about the feminine nature of the earth? He sent his teachings in the earth to save the earth. The very same thing when he was saving the women when they were at his feet. That he is giving life to her. Right? Why? And all the children of the people will not perish through all the secrets of the Malachim. That's the only reason. How you gonna cause all the people not to perish? Get rid of the person that's causing all the teachings, with which he taught their sons. Because the teachings that they taught, that they bore children, they wooed the woman, then they had a child, and then they taught it to their sons, and it was going to keep passing on. And the whole earth had been corrupted by Azazel's teaching of his own actions, and right upon him all sin. Now you see why Yahushua put all the sin on one person, like the scapegoat. And Gabaal, he says, and Gabaal said, proceed against the bastards and the reprobates and against the children of adultery, and destroy the children of adultery and expel the children of the watchers from among the people. Now you see why in Revelation he said, I'm going to kill all your children dead. What do you think those children are that they created? Why do you think he killed David's son? Because they're children of adultery. The very same thing that you read in the book of Hazon. That's why they took wives. They took women that were married and they had bore children of adultery. Those children of adultery are supposed to die. Those are children that they taught all the wickedness. And destroy the children of adultery and expel the children of the watchers from among the people. And send them against one another so that they may be destroyed in the fight. For the length of days have they not? They will beg you everything for their fathers on behalf of behalf of themselves, because they hope to live an eternal life. They hope that each one of them will live in a period of 500 years. And to Mikal, Elohim said, make known to Shemyaza and to the others who are with him, who fornicated with women, that they will die together with them in all their defilement. Now you see why? People say, why he killed all them women, all them in the wilderness, in the book of Numbers, Midbar, when they were with the Moabites. And people say, why are you still here? Because Yahuwah has mercy on whom he has mercy, and he has compassion on whom he has compassion. And he hardens whom he hardens. And guess what happens? We almost finished it. With which women, they will die together with them in all their defilement. Now you see why he says those who with Azazel or Isabel, those who committed fornication, I'm going to throw in the great tribulation, and I'm going to throw her in the sick bed, and then I'm going to kill her children dead. And guess what it says? And with the women, they will die together with them in their defilement. And when they all their children have battled with each other, because that's what's going to create all the works of the flesh. That's what people are doing today. Notice how all the men and women battling each other now. Who's greater, who's not? Who's the best and who's not? Who's a good man and who's a good woman? Who's this and who's not? Isn't that what they're doing now? Everybody doing this stuff. They battling each other. And when they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them for the 70 generations underneath the rocks of the ground until the day of their judgment and their consummation, until the eternal judgment is concluded. And in those days they will lead them into the bottom of the fire and in torment and in prison, where they will be locked up forever. Now you see why you don't want to commit fornication and adultery with the sons of Elohim. Aren't you a son of Elohim? That's what you should say. Don't you say you believe in Yahuwah? Don't you say you believe in the son of Yahuwah and Yahushua Mashiach? What you doing here? It's like the woman said, what you inquiring of me? Is there not Elohim in Yasharal? Is there not a woman in Yasharal you could be married to? That's what other guys ain't saying that to you no more. They like, yeah, come on. They should be like, don't you say you believe in Yahuwah? Is there not a woman in Yasharal? They're not doing that. They inviting you right to their house. And guess what? Verse 14. Yeah. And at the time when they will be burned and die, those who collaborated with them will be bound together with them from henceforth unto the end of all generations. And I see why. And destroy all the souls of the pleasure and the children of the watchers. For they have done injustice to man, his servants, destroy injustice from the face of the earth. And every iniquitous deed will end, and the plant of righteousness and truth will appear forever, and he will plant joy. Now you see why in Psalm of Solomon it talks about you destroy the trees, the fruitful tree of joy. And you burn it with a false tongue, and you bring homes to fighting because of your behaviors that you bring in with a false tongue and smooth speech. And then all the righteous ones will escape. He said they're going to escape. And become the living ones until they multiply and become tens and hundreds. Now you see why we talk about being fruitful and multiply. If I bear them record, they have a zeal of Elohim, but not according to knowledge. But when you get Yahuwah's heart, he said, then you'll be fruitful and multiply in the land. But until you get that heart, you won't. You won't. You still have injustice inside of your heart. That's what we talked about. We talked about you got to remove injustice out of your tent in the first month. In the book of Ehud, chapter 22, we said this already. But he says what? They didn't do it. And you know what else they didn't do? They didn't do it. Destroy injustice from the face of the earth. So if you still got it, he's going to get rid of you. And every iniquitous deed will end. And the plant of righteousness and truth will appear forever, and he will plant joy. And then all the righteous ones will escape and become the living ones until they multiply and become tens and hundreds. And all the days of their youth and years of their retirement, they will complete in peace, in shalom. We just read that, the Psalms of Solomon. And in those days, the whole earth will be worked in righteousness, all in her planted with trees, and will find Barak. And they shall plant pleasant trees upon her vines, and he who plants a vine upon her will produce wine for plenitude. And every seed that is sown on her, one measure will yield 1,000 measures, and one measure of olives will yield 10 measures of presses of oil. And you cleanse the earth from all injustice. That's the whole point. You see why you got to remove injustice out of your tent. That's why you're supposed to remove it out of you, out of your body. You cleansing yourself from all the injustice inside of you. And from all defilement, and the defilement of the flesh. We're supposed to throw that in the brook Kudrum. That was Qahalath Kudrum. We talked about this. That's why he was telling us to do it again in the second Pesach. Then, and from all oppression, and from all sin, and from all iniquity. They that all in the name of Yahushua Mashiach depart from iniquity, which is being done on the earth. Remove them from the earth. Remove it from you. Do not I feel shamayim in earth? And all the children of the people will become righteous. That's the only way. He said, why you do all that? So you can become righteous, because you ain't righteous if you ain't doing it. And all nations shall worship and Barak me. He said, is that happening? No. And they will all prostrate themselves to me. and the earth shall be cleansed from all pollution and from all sin. Why do you think Yahushua Mashiach cried out in totality? But then also, and from all plague. How you do that? By doing the debar. You only get a pardon by doing it. Be doers of the word, not hearers only, deceiving your own self. And from all suffering. And it shall not happen again. That's the only reason you're suffering. That I shall send these upon the earth from generation to generation forever. These are all a part of it. We're going to talk about that some more, but here we go. Nazarene asked the Shaly'shy how demons get power over men, women, and children. Therefore, demons, as we have just said, when once they have been able, by means of opportunities afforded them, to convey themselves through base and evil actions into the bodies of men, women, and children, if they remain in them a long time through their own negligence, because they do not seek after what is profitable for their inner being. Speak to us, they don't want to hear these things. Because these are all profitable for your inner being. Because these behaviors, these things on the inside, has to stay dormant, has to stay locked away. They necessarily compel them for the future to fulfill the desires of the demons that dwell in them. But what is worst of all, at the end of the age, when the demon is co-signed the ageless fire, of necessity the Ruach also that obeyed him will with him be tortured in ageless fires together with his body it has polluted. We just read what Shemjaza, Azazel, we just read what Mikal, Raphael, and Seraphal, what they were doing. Cleansing the earth from the polluted things that were on the earth. That's the same thing you got to seek after in yourself. You got to cleanse yourself from all the pollution of these teachings. Because somebody taught it to you. Either by action in front of your face or by words. Somebody taught it to you. And people don't want to admit that, but that's the truth though. Somebody taught it to you. Who taught it to you? Find the root of the person who taught it to you and you'll find out where it comes from. Romans 8, 6 through 11. For to set your mind on the flesh is death. What happened to all those people in Enoch? First Enoch, chapter 6, 7, 8. But to set your mind on the Ruach is Shalom. And he said, then the righteous going to delight themselves and be in Shalom. Once all the pollution is gone. Because then you ain't going to have no more fighting. You're going to have a fruitful tree of joy. For the mind is set on the flesh is hostile to Yahuwah. Why? Because you're setting on the flesh. And that's why all the Malachim fell down and they went and took wives, they were married, and they bore adulterous children by them. For it does not submit to Yahuwah's law. Thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. You shall not, you shall not, you shall not. That would not word. It's just like you gotta change the word. Makes people not want to go against it. Anytime you say not, no, that means yes. Right? Verse 8, those who are of the flesh cannot please Yahuwah. You can't. For you, however, are not of the flesh, but of the Ruach. And if the Ruach of Yahuwah dwells in you, then anyone who does not have the Ruach of Mashiach does not belong to him. He said, you don't belong to him. Why do you think Raphael threw Azazel and dug a pit in the desert? Why do you think he did that? But if Mashiach Yahushua is in you, although the body is dead to sin, because that's what we just talked about, cleansing. He just talked about Enoch. They had to cleanse the whole earth of sin and injustice and pollution and perversion. The Ruach is the life because of righteousness. If the Ruach of him who raised Yahushua from the dead dwells in you, he who raised Mashiach Yahushua from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies through his Ruach who dwells in you. And if his Ruach dwells in you, I assure you, you're going to be just like Raphael. You're going to dig a big ditch in the desert and you're going to throw that stuff right in there. Right? But it says, Aleph Yuchanan, this is Aleph Yuchanan 1, 2, 24 to 28. Let what you heard from the beginning abide in you. And if what you heard from the beginning abides in you, then you too will abide in the Son, the life of the house, the Ben, the life of the house, and the Father, the strength of the house. And this is the promise he has made to us, eternal life. Why? Because you're going to radah over all these behaviors. You're gonna bring in subjection every thought in your mind into the obedience of Yahushua Mashiach. That's even every teaching that you've ever been taught. You're going to bring it in subjection. Radah. I write these things about those who are trying to deceive you. Idol worshippers, people who teach in fornication, adultery, teaching all types of things like Azazel, Shemyaza, Penuel, Amaros, Asab, Asbaal. They're trying to deceive you. Isha, like they say, they're trying to deceive you. But the anointing you receive in him abides in you, and you have no need that anyone should teach you. You don't need nobody teaching you about fornication and adultery. You don't need no Azazel teaching you. You don't need no Shemjaza teaching you. You don't need no Asbaal teaching you. Notice how all they had all at the end. They're all Allahims too. All. Is it not written in your Torah said you are Allahim? All these, they had all. Sarafa all. Asbaal, right? All these are all at the end. Isn't that written in your Torah said you are Allahim? So you know what that means? You might put an all at the end of your name. And people say, why? Because you are written, you are an Allahim. And a matter of fact, and when you say you are Allahim, like you say you are, why do you return back to the old nature? Because the old nature commits adultery and fornication and worship idols, and their weapons are carnal. Because that's the first thing they pick up instead of the bar. But the anointing you receive from him abides in you, and you have no need that anyone should teach you. You have them other people teach you. You in trouble, human being. Human being, you in trouble. Why do you think he destroyed Jerusalem? Because them gods in Jerusalem, with them Allahims, them gods, they deceived the whole world. The whole world was drunk by the wine of their fornication. Then we just read how he said, and all the pleasant trees are going to bear a whole bunch of wine. But guess what happened? They're going to bring joy, trees of joy. They think it's natural. We're talking about trees of joy. From the bar that's spoken. Verse 27. But the anointing you receive from him abides in you, and you have no need that anyone should teach you. But as his anointing teaches you about everything, and it's true and it's no lie, just as it is taught you, abide in him. And now, little children. Little children, abide in him, so that when he appears, you may have confidence and not shrink from him in shame at his coming. Yahuwah, vindicate me and put them all to shame. Why do you think he said that? Dawid wrote that. He said, bring them all to shame. Who say, aha, our soul, we saw it. We like to say those things. Who satisfy themselves with the fruit of their lips. Right, this book of Sirach 3:17-23. My son and daughter, go on thy business in Aynu, in meekness. So should thou be beloved of him that is approved. The greater thou art, the more Aynu, the more humble thyself, and thou shalt find favor before Yahuwah. Then we just reading that all the nations and everybody gonna prostrate themselves in first, everybody gonna prostrate themselves. Many are in high places of renown. He said, wasn't Shemjaza, Azazel, Asbaal, Sarafa, Tamir, weren't they all in high places? Rafa, all right. But mysteries are revealed unto the meek. Didn't they teach all of the teachings of the secrets of the Shemaims to the people? But it was taught in a different way. It was taught in a way similar, but it was more of a carnal type of way. It was twisted and turned a little bit and created some other type of being, so they mixed it with some other stuff. He said, but mystery revealed unto the meek, for the power of Yahuwah is great and honor with the lowly. Because it's not going to be honored with people who satisfy themselves with the fruit of their lips and the fruit of their own way in their belly with all of those works of the flesh. It's not going to be honored with. Yahuwah's name not going to be honored with. Seek not out things that are too hard for thee, neither search for things that are above thy strength. He said you can't carry that. But what is commanded thee, think thereupon with reverence, for it is not needful for thee to see with thine eyes the things that are in secret. And then what they taught them? They taught them the secrets of the Shamayim. Then they know what they said? It's not good for you to see that. Because as soon as you see it, you're going to want to practice it, do it. You're going to think it's okay because it was taught by Elohim. And you're going to think that it's true. And it's no lie. And you're going to follow it with your whole heart. Now, even knowing your soul, your Naphash, is corrupted. Yahuwah chose you to build himself a house, a bayit that he can dwell inside. But you got some other teachings in there he didn't put. Be not curious in unnecessary matters. Don't be curious. For more things are showed unto thee than men, women, and children understand. Because they think they know. They got all that teaching. You know, all that stuff you see. And they have all them things the Malachi taught. And guess what? They believe that they have more than what you have. They really do. Don't they? As soon as you bring it up, yeah. They believe they have more than what you have. And they actually are arrogant with it when you actually bring them. Here's your who's at the bar. If you humble yourself like a Yalid, you'll get into the Malkut. Man, we already know that already. Because that's above me, right? That's why. Be not curious in unnecessary matters, for more things are showed unto thee than men, women, and children understand. Why? Because everything happens for a reason. So we look at all that. We look at Yahushua Mashiach. We look at the one who stayed here for 40 days after waving the sheaf. The one from the 17th day until the 5th day of the 3rd month, 49 days total, when he was taken up in the Abrakub Kanah Ruah. The one who gave life and understanding to us through his inner man, that we should not walk after the courting of the lower self, but the higher self. For the lower self is full of selfishness and greed, and violence, and slander. But all these things bring a home in your home to fighting, even your inner man. When we live in this world, we are not of it. As long as we live in the world, one has to understand the tricks and the deception of the old serpent. They take you from one Elohim, and they suggest in your mind opinions of Elohim, but not according to righteousness. And you be ignorant of Yahuwah's righteousness, then you will establish your own, and you will refuse to submit yourself to the knowledge of Yahushua Mashiach. And he'll have all your behaviors in the frontlets between your eyes. And the only thing you'll be thinking about is his understanding, and not the understanding of Yahushua Mashiach. So I'm going to read this right quick. This is the book of Psalms, the book of Tahalim, Psalms, chapter 24 and verse 1. Tahalim, Psalms, chapter 24, verse 1. The earth is Yahuwah's and the fullness thereof, right? The whole earth, the world and those who dwell therein. For he has founded it upon the seas and established it upon the rivers. Who shall ascend to his Qahalath hill? And who shall stand in his Qahalath place? He who has clean hands and a pure heart, a pure lave. That's the only way you can even stand there. And clean hands and a pure heart, who does not lift up his souls to what is false, to idols, and does not swear deceitfully. Say you're going to do something, and then don't do it. You say you're going to keep the Pesach, and then don't do it. That's why I say you can't stop. Once you say you're going to do it, you can't stop. He will receive blessings from Yahuwah. He's going to receive blessings from Yahuwah. right? And guess what it also says? And righteousness from the Elohim of his salvation. Such is the generation of those who seek him, who seek the face of Elohim of Yaakov, Selah. So we look at all that. We look at Yahushua Mashiach. We look at everything he's done and everything he's getting ready to do. Because everything he's done, he finished. But everything he's getting ready to do, only his Father knows. At the appointed time, when he sends his Son back. For no man knows the day nor hour. But when he does send him back, he said every knee gonna bow and every tongue shall confess that Yahushua Mashiach is master to the kabod of Yahuwah himself. For the meek shall inherit the earth. The Anu shall inherit the Eras.